Hi, Alex. Thank you so much for being in my interview. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Very good. All better for seeing you, Ksenia.
Thank you so much. Flirty start.
There we go.
Um, I know that you've been in your profession in your agency for 25 years.
Yeah.
I will celebrate my 25 years in 4 months, so I'm catching up. Can you tell me about your matchmaking service or about your agency, what you do, what is your background, how you start, what do you like? So please introduce you and your job.
So my name's Alex Mellor-Brook. I work for an agency called Select Personal Introductions. We're based in Manchester, which is in the north. So it's above Watford for anybody in London. We've been there obviously for 25 years, so we cover the whole northwest, West Yorkshire, north of England. We do have clients further afield as well, and we have international clients, but predominantly we specialise in the northwest, West Yorkshire areas. That's where our client base is. And we obviously, like yourself, started at a time where the internet was growing just about. I think Match was in 95, we started in 97, so it kind of, we've seen the onslaught of how online has taken effect, and then obviously social media kicked in, and then the apps have kicked in, and how all of that has kind of, I suppose, influenced people, how they look for a partner, how they try to find a date, their perception of how they should look for a date. But what we do, we work with normally professional, managerial, creative and media, semi-professional. People are articulate, are successful. They might have a small company, they might run a very, very big company, but they're looking for the same thing in the sense of they want a relationship. So for us, we normally have initial conversation with somebody to work out how we can help. Sometimes it's really obvious that somebody just wants to date, and that's absolutely fine. But that's where other alternatives like apps or online sites would work. We're looking for people who want relationships. So they obviously have an interview with ourselves. We have an application form that they complete, find out more about them, more about who they are and their kind of passions and interests. And then we find out about the kind of person they'd like to meet. And then what we do is we start to introduce them. Every single client is obviously interviewed and vetted. And I think this is the beauty about matchmaking, you know, in the sense of you do have somebody who's doing that legwork for you. And you're not using a forum where you've got a mixture of people using it for a mixture of reasons. You have a group of people who've been interviewed and vetted and ID checked, so that when your matchmaker says, this is this person, this is what they do as a job, you don't have to spend 4 weeks, 2 months trying to suss out, are they legitimate? Are they in this country? Are they somewhere else? What do they want from me? Do they want my money? Or do they want something else? And then we can introduce them. So the kind of the date should happen really, really quickly, which is wonderful, rather than this kind of toing and froing.
You know what is my challenge, because most of my clients live in different countries, so it's quite seldom that they are in one city or in one area. They start writing. And despite this writing tradition developed over last years, most people cannot manage from the first message till the first coffee, even living nearby. They writing about something and they always forget that first step is, okay, we start writing, then we have video date, then we meet for normal date, but it's about everything possible. And in the end, most people cannot manage to get the date. So I think they're working local, it makes it much easier, because you can set the date, send them both without writing, without any discussion. You just go.
Yeah, and I think that should be the aim of anybody who uses a matchmaker. It should be about getting that experience under your belt. Don't start filtering like you would do online. Take the experience of the matchmaker. If they suggest somebody, go and sit in front of that person. I always say, from a coaching aspect, it's a two-pronged approach. One, it's a situation for you to put yourself in, push yourself outside your boundaries, test yourself, go and meet, have that conversation, which is wonderful. But also, meet somebody who's also single, heading in the same direction as you, have that conversation to see if it works. Because all that digital pen pal that goes on, what's written and what's read, it's so different, and it can be misread. I've seen so many people trip themselves up. Or I remember one of our clients came to us, and I looked at some of the messages he'd had online, and they were like dissertations. They were huge. And when I asked how the actual date had gone the first date, he said, we never met. But there's this huge correspondence of messages going. And of course, you write them, you have to then reread it. You think, should I send that? Should I not? Should I hang on to it? So you're almost setting yourself up to fail if you do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And many people really believe that through writing, you can really know this person better. One of the things I learned in my life, it was really hard lesson. The real truth about your partner, you will find out when you start divorce.
Oh.
You will never know your partner very well until you start splitting up and sharing something. Yeah, it means that and people who, I had even people who said, so I need to write with her for at least 2-3 months, and only after it we can start discussing the date. But from my perspective, writing with somebody 2-3 months without meeting him for coffee, it's time waste.
Yeah, very, very much so. Because what you do is you build up a relationship, which is a virtual relationship in a sense. It's if you think about it, it's very old-fashioned. How people used to send letters to each other, but they would sit down and they would think about what they were going to write, and they'd take the time writing. Well, nowadays we just punch away and we send. And sometimes we don't think about what we're writing about, how it's presented, and that more importantly, how it's going to be received. And how it's going to be received, there are a number of different ways that will happen, because it depends on the mood of the person. If the person's in a really positive, energetic mood, they're going to read it one way. If they're down, if they've had a lot of stress along of anxiety, they're going to perceive that message in a very different way.
Yesterday I got not complaint but question. The woman met the guy on the single event. They haven't met ever since, and every his sentence he finished with this this cheek kissing smiley, so this with one heart, so only one. What does it mean? Is he really sexual oriented? What is it? I said, it's just his way to show emotion, that he means it like, like with smile and maybe kissing smile. It's not more, not less. But she was sitting really thinking, what is behind of this emoji? Nothing. Yeah. Realistically, nothing.
But it is, it's one of those things that always changes. My son was sat down and was teaching us some of the emojis and how they've changed, and how some of the younger generations actually see and perceive and interpret some of these emojis. And I look at some that I'm being sending, thinking, I better not send that anymore. I do not send that one anymore, because I'm being something completely different. So it's like language. Language changes as we go through decades and centuries, because it's the way we use it, and we introduce new words into language, and that's how it works. Same with emojis and little pictures and images like that. They're going to be perceived one way for one person, completely different way for another person. And that's, you've got to be really careful with them. But again, yes, if you're backwards and forwards in too many times without ever meeting that person, I think that's the problem. That's the issue. I think if you've met a couple of times, you kind of get a feel for that person, and there's more of a connection. There's a bit more of an understanding. So you're a little bit more tolerant to the messages.
Uh-huh.
And again, you have a chance to talk about it and maybe bring something up. I think if you've never met and you start sending these messages,
Yes. Yeah. Again, it's that's why writing is the way that many couples see as challenge, and they fail on this challenge.
Yes.
So unfortunately, this pandemic and this, is for me, it's this war situation. It stops people from meeting in person. But I had today one interview with one Russian matchmaker, and she said, we never had so many marriages like now, because people really appreciate, after pandemic, they really appreciate family and so on. And despite all the situation, they didn't stop to create families, and it's a good thing. If some foreigner will come to you, okay, Alex, can you tell me what is so special about dating in Manchester? What will be your answer?
I mean, dating in Manchester is absolutely fantastic. I mean, Manchester has exploded. I remember when we started in Manchester 25 years ago, and literally 5, 6 o'clock came, and that was it. The whole city almost closed down. There were like 20,000 people living in the city. It probably more, but it felt like that. Now it is so vibrant. The life is just in that city. I mean, there are buildings. You turn around and there's suddenly a huge tower block there. But there's so much energy within the city. And I think the other thing that anybody who comes anywhere in the north, I think the biggest difference is you will be spoken to. I always find when I go to London, not as many people talk to me. Whereas in the north, literally, you can stand still. If you go to Manchester, you go to Liverpool, somebody will stop and they will start talking to you, and you probably get a life story, especially Liverpool.
Yeah, Liverpool is very special. So Liverpool never sleeps. It's like New York.
But yeah, it's interesting. When I go down, I sometimes get, because I talk a lot to people, strangers, I do get those kind of, who are you? And it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. So yeah, it's a very, very friendly, very, very friendly place in the north. You do find that. So. And if you speak to somebody in London and they talk to you, just ask where they're originally from.
Manchester.
Because a lot of people, what will happen is, if they were born in the north, they go down to the city to build a career, and then they come back north again because they've reached certain levels in that career ladder. They can come back and actually hit a good performance level in their job back in the north, if they come back to them.
It's really interesting thing, because I thought that people in London, his area, are very friendly compared to communication in Germany, because in Germany people mostly reserved, and if you even smile to somebody without any reason, just smile, people like jumping away. So what do you want from me? And in London, like New York, absolutely fine. You smile somebody, she smiles back. It's But I didn't think that Manchester is even more.
Yeah, even more. We have I've got a client who he joined us, and he's paid for his sister to join a London agency.
Okay.
Because literally, I mean, she's mid-20s, and she was literally going from her flat to work, getting on the tube and going back home again. And that was it. She wasn't chatting to anybody. Now, his thought process was based on how his friends use the internet. He did not want his sister getting involved with that type of person. Basically, his friends, or types of his friends. So he said, I'm going to pay for you to go to a matchmaker, and they're going to find you somebody who's been vetted, interviewed, and is looking for the same thing as you, not wanting to go from what we call a short-term relationship. Let's call it that. So
it's very nice name for one night stand. Yeah. Very nice call. Really interesting thing. I don't remember. I had this conversation about it. Their generation, that they are even worse than we are, because we still remember old-fashioned time, just talking to each other, chatting without smartphones, not writing, but really talking. But this generation, they, like my children, my friends. Who are your friends? not from the school, from the games. So they really think, especially these young teenagers, that chatting with somebody or playing together online games, it's already friendship. It's not. So it's absolutely mix of names. They don't really understand what's friendship.
Yeah, but I suppose in their kind of mindset, that we all have friends, and we could probably put them all in a room, and they'll all be very different, and the common denominator is always going to be you. You're going to bring. They may never ever speak to each other outside of that room, if they were. And I suppose what it is in that kind of pretext of gaming, that's who the friends are, that's who they hang out with, but it's a virtual process rather than a physical process. So you might even sit them in front of each other and they might not get on as well, because of course it is about that personality. How do they get on? But they would have an understanding, I suppose. I think the interesting thing that I found, again, talking about the youngsters, how my son can keep and build on his friendships using social media. So, he'll be on WhatsApp, FaceTime, anything like that, communicating with his friends, because he's not going out to see them then, but he will go out and arrange to see them. But they can communicate, late into the night sometimes, just keeping that friendship. It's quite fascinating. But I think also what it brings with it is that almost instant gratification. We were just mentioning there. I mean, we've both been through the stages where we spoke about this, where we've been folding leaflets and putting them in envelopes and then getting somebody to post them through the door. That was how you did it. Now you've got YouTube, you've got TikTok, you've got Instagram, you've got all the different social media platforms, and literally you can do it and it's out. Whereas it used to be a lot of planning. We used to advertise in periodicals and the Yale magazine, and that would take months of planning to get somebody to design it. You could build your own website now. Well, you had to find somebody who could build websites.
Even worse, I was the day before yesterday, I was in one business coaching, and we spoke about artificial intelligence. There are apps you can write. I want a website about fitness for men 40 till 50 living in Manchester. You click, and artificial intelligence builds for you or creates for you website, absolutely amazing website in 1 minute. In 1 minute, with testimonials, with call to action, with everything. I was sitting thinking, bloody hell, I thought about how much money I invested all over the years in my websites. And that means every beginner, every newbie can just click, get this website for $40, and that's all.
I mean, they are. You now find coders are going to use the AI to create code so they can build apps. They are literally building apps very, very quickly by creating the code. And some of the time you have to test it, see if it works, and there are a little bit of tweaks that you have to make. But it literally straight down, all the code is there. Boom.
It's on one hand, it's amazing. On the other hand, it's really scary because we are losing this importance of value of human communication, but now it's getting worse and worse because you even don't need a web designer, you don't need a developer, you don't have to talk to people. You just sit alone in front of your laptop. You want to have a business, click website, come on. Click website, come on.
And then what happens is, of course, if you don't keep that skill set of communication up, how are you going to communicate with another human being? I mean, I always say living with somebody is the hardest thing to do. If we go back to talking about friends we love dearly, we will know them for all our lives. A lot of them will know them for all our lives. I always ask, who could you live with out of all your friends? And I think one person in 25 years has said, I have one friend that I could do that with. Everybody else has gone, no, I couldn't do it. And that's the point. You're looking for somebody that at the end of the day, when you're tired or you're niggly or you're happy or whatever, when you close that door and you want to relax, you need somebody you can relax with, you can trust, you can talk to.
Yeah.
and share that space with. And it's so hard. And unless you keep the skill set up, that relationship will fail. And we talk about relationships as in, it could be a business relationship, it could be a friendship relationship, it could be a loving relationship, you know. And I just worry about that. And again, because a lot more people are working from home, how does that help? And I think this is where matchmakers really seen that surge in growth, because people have tried the apps and they've struggled, and then they haven't had the ability to. I mean, your singles events in London. I mean, if anybody's in London and they're not attending your singles events, it's kind of like, that's such an easy option to do. Just turn up and do it, because you get to talk to other single people. But
yes, because this this finger job right left, it's give you illusion that there is enough choice. If you don't like this person, you can replace it, like Amazon refund. I want refund.
It's the prime. We call it the prime effect.
Prime effect. Yes.
Order it at 10 and it arrives at 10 in the evening. You know, I'm here.
Yes. Yeah. Prime effect. Yeah, I didn't think about it, and I think, it's on one hand. On the other hand, it's this huge influence of social media, because looking at these beautiful faces, expensive cars, this luxury life, pretending to be something special, all this influencer, for them it's hard job. They sometimes have to take 1,000 pictures to get one good posted on Instagram. It's their job. But normal people, normal life, normal boring people, they think, yeah, okay, so if I can see these photos on Instagram, I might find this special person, this beautiful person in the real life as well. I deserve it. And it's so difficult. I had this conversation. I think we all have this conversation many times. How to give our clients to understand that Instagram or TikTok, it's not reality.
And against the filtering as well. The filtering that people use, you can see it. And I suppose the downside of that is, when you're going to meet somebody, are you going to look like the image that they're looking at? So yes, you have got to the point where you've managed to get somebody to say yes and they're going to meet you, but then you're going to turn up and look very different. So you're already kind of on the back foot. And I know France is just bringing in this thing about filtering and influencers, and they have to now register if they are using any kind of filters, because it's affecting people, you know, and having an effect on the mindset. But again, if we look at social media, how does that influence our perception of things? So for instance, when you look at some of the young ladies, they've all been looking at the same YouTube videos, because they all have the makeup the same. So they almost all look the same. You know, I remember walking around the shops locally, and I was thinking, I've just seen that girl over there, but it's not. But the same, she's done her face exactly the same, used the same kind of method, so you have that similar look. But then is that going to influence the type of person, say, a guy wants to go for? They have to have this particular kind of look. So you're almost creating this cloning effect. Everybody looking exactly the same kind of hairstyle. Mind you, I suppose we used to do that in the 80s and 90s, where people used the Rachel haircut. Everybody turned up, I suppose, asking for that. Or I don't think I ever had a mullet, so that's a good thing. So
I had a situation with a couple of clients in the last weeks. They choose women with good professional photos. And good professional photos, if a woman invests her money in this photo shooting, usually with professional makeup. Professional makeup, I don't know if you know it from your wife, it takes minimum an hour. So it's really a lot of layers, a lot of playing with nuances. It's complicated thing. It's, you know, to make it at home, you have to train for years. And the girls go for a Skype date with normal makeup, you know, makeup, but not this professional. oh no, it's not the type of person I'm looking for. I said, you know what? If you give her money for professional makeup, she will do it for you. And you will see this pretty face
Yeah.
like you imagine. But it's really sad because I have one client who broke up several Skype dates after 3-5 minutes. So he even didn't pretend to be polite to women. He didn't like her, you know, like swiping.
And it almost becomes a process that they've trained themselves. It's like sometimes you get guys, if they've been to the bars a lot, they might say, well, this is what I drive, this is how much money I earn, and this is what I do as a job. Because I remember one of our clients was doing that, and I said, why are you using that as the kind of lead into the conversation? And he'd learned it from meeting people. Yeah, from meeting people. It's like, yeah, but some of these ladies have better cars, they earn more money than you, they have better jobs. So don't lead with that kind of information. It's not needed. It's not needed at all. It's about work out the connection, then consider the next part.
But you know, the problem is, I think the question is, what is your job? First, for business people, it comes from business networking because it's the easiest way to start conversation. But in dating, if people, I saw it many times, if they start writing or meet in person, and the question, what is your job? It's, for me, it's lack of communication skills, because they really don't know what to ask else. So it's the easiest thing. What is your profession? Okay, I'm engineer. Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of engineer? Are you building something? Construction? Oh, chemistry, so interesting. Don't understand at all, but oh, really? And how long? And who are you? You know, but they ask without, probably without intention to continue conversation, because they really don't know what to ask else.
Yeah. And that's the point. They need to just have a nice, easy conversation with somebody rather than a list of questions. The list of questions can come next. You know, it isn't that job interview. I know I would probably say it's something that maybe ladies do more than gents, because it's a work factor, and it's sometimes a safety mechanism that they use because you feel really comfortable there, so they will go into that role, and they will start that interview process almost. And that's why, you know, and I only say that because sometimes you will get gents coming back and it's like a job interview, wow, and they know that's the default they've gone into. It's like when, if there's somebody who is very good with people, you always have to make sure that they be themselves rather than trying to be the person who is going to be liked because of a particular persona that they are taking on, which they naturally use at work. And I think we naturally do. We will do that all the time as matchmakers. We will do that.
Absolutely.
You meet so many different people. And I think it's a skill that you have to do. You have to get along with a different variety of people.
Yeah, especially if you have no idea what he is talking about, something like some professions, they start telling, you know, Ksenia, I do. Oh, really? So interesting.
Surgery. So
yeah. No, yeah, that's so interesting. Okay, you are a British matchmaker and you're sitting in the middle of the country, so it means you are British matchmaker. What if foreigner like me would ask you, Alex, what is so special about dating in the UK? Who are these British singles? What should I know before I start dating British singles?
If you're looking at men, you have to understand they aren't good at vocalizing themselves. They do struggle, I would say. Some you can't shut up, but there are a lot that, especially if you sit them in front of a very attractive woman, they will become insular. They will kind of take a step back, and maybe that's a little bit of anxiety in the sense of, I'm going to make a fool of myself, I'm going to say the wrong thing, But guys do have a tendency to do that. Whereas some ladies, British ladies, might over project themselves and go into that work role, again, keeping themselves safe. So making sure that, yes, I am independent, yes, I am successful, which they know anyway, but they're trying to make sure that the other person knows that. And sometimes you can get that balance. Some people are really good. And I think the more, this is why I always say to people, try a little bit of coaching first. If you are unsure, just go and get yourself a dating coach to run through a little bit of session or 2 or 3 sessions, just so that you're more relaxed with who you are and give you a better understanding of how to approach things, because that is sometimes helping you get through the anxiety. So from a guy's perspective, it teaches them to open up a little bit and have a conversation, because there are a lot of guys who literally will take a list with them and they will ask random questions.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a good indicator. It shows that you're making them nervous, which shows that they like you. So it's a crazy thing, and you might think it's a little bit stilted, but that's why you need to meet a couple of times.
I don't remember who told me. It was many years ago in one, I think it was even one British agency. They had their rule of 3 dates. Do you know who is it? Because I don't remember who was it. It was on one conferences.
There's an American company called
American company, something like they go on one pre-date just for drink. If they okay with each other, they really obligated to go for 3 normal dates. I remember all matchmakers were sitting, how? It's written in the contract. Yeah, okay, and what's happening next? And the matchmaker then, she said, usually it's really like getting emotionally on the second date, so it means on the 3rd meeting. So it means we people, we really need time. This 5 seconds to make decision or 10 seconds to make decision, it's not enough for our brains. We really need time to get involved in conversation, and only after it we can find something interesting in each other.
And research has shown that you don't know after 5-10 minutes. It's a slow process.
Yep.
And if we take it from a natural perspective, you would bump into that person maybe at work, through friends, and you'd meet them a few times. You wouldn't be considering, you're not projecting into the future. Oh, can I see myself living with this person, having children, having grandkids, growing old? You never do that to them. You just get to know them. And it's taking that thought process, that mindset of, okay, go meet. And I always say, meet. If you haven't met twice, why? Now, unless you just stood there going, I just can't do this, that's fine. I completely understand that. But as a matchmaker, I want you to sit in front of that person twice, because you start to relax with them. You get to have that nice conversation. But as a coach, I want you to learn the skill set of sitting in front of somebody, especially if a matchmaker has introduced you, because that conversation that you will have with that person is very different to somebody you're going to meet on an app. Because the app, I promise, if there's a lady watching this, that guy's going to tell you exactly what you want to hear, so he can go from A to B, and then he's disappeared. Whereas somebody who's looking for a relationship will look at you, and he'll be thinking, or they will be thinking, how do you fit into my life? How do I fit into your life? And then as you meet more and more, are we heading in the same direction? And you naturally do that. But you've got to give yourself a chance to get to that point. So that's why I always say, get rid of the lists, do what you'd normally do, and go and have a conversation with somebody. See how you connect, because it's a great process for you to go through.
Absolutely. Don't hurry up. Don't be but again, there are different coaches and different dating approach, because I heard really many times in different languages from different coaches. So if you go for the first date, it shouldn't be long. It should be really, let's say an hour, because he has to be hungry. He has to stay hungry. And in my opinion, maybe I'm not in this mainstream. If you like the date, if you like this conversation, why not staying longer? Why a woman should look at her watch and disappear in an hour just because some dating coach thinks it's right? So you have to do, it's probably there. What I try to explain to my clients to have this dating with fun, it's you have to do what you feel comfortable with. If in any situation you don't feel comfortable, think what's wrong. And if the person is wrong, just, disappear. Don't try to rescue something.
Yeah. And and I think if you go with that concept of going initially for an hour, it just takes a little bit of anxiety away again. We do get anxious about meeting new people. We get anxious about doing new things in our lives. So dating is just one of those things that we are getting anxious, because I suppose what you're doing is you're going to a complete stranger. Do you like me? And then they're saying, do I like you? And it's, it's a very vulnerable situation to be in. But I think if you go for that hour and you get on, like you just said, you then, if you want to go and have something to eat because you feel comfortable with this person, you're getting on with this person, you've connected, fantastic. Don't be too long, because adrenaline only goes for so long and then it dips.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure it's like a comedian. A comedian should always leave their audience wanting more. You should always leave your date wanting more, but you need to give them enough that they enjoy themselves and go, yes, I want to meet that person again.
Yes. When your clients or your prospects come to you, what is their main problem you discover?
I think the main problem is trying to find somebody who's on the same wavelength as them.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to meet somebody, I always say sometimes the same as them, but it's not the same as them. It's on the same kind of thought process, in the sense of looking for a relationship, but also when you've got people who are successful, articulate, intelligent, they need something similar. Mm-hmm. They need something comparable. And I think that's the hardest stage. I think the interesting thing is when you look at generations, we start from mid-20s and we go through to about 70, 75. And people always wonder how you got such a broad spectrum. Well, what we have to remember is those people in the late 20s and early 30s, they're in the settling down process. They have friends who are getting married or having children, building relationships. And they realize if somebody's been on a career path, they want something similar. So they start to try and get the life-work balance. So they've been successful in the career. So they kind of take the foot off the gas a little bit and start to then invest in their future, in their own personal life. Then you're going to find in the 40s, late 30s, 40s, 50s, people have had that long-term relationship and are coming out of it. So then they have that kind of situation where they're trying to work out how to date. They might not have dated for 10 years and it's changed. It's changed in the last 5 years. So 10 years, and then of course, then you're looking at people who are looking at retiring, which again is a very different mindset, because that, I call that the pandemic was almost like that retirement mode, because what you're doing is you're looking at somebody not to live with who, oh, I'm going to work, they're going to work, or we've got the kids to run around. This is somebody you're thinking, hold on, we both stop work. We're going to be spending a load of time together. Yes, we're going to have interests that are going to be different, but then we're going to come back and we're going to be in a house. We're going to be in a house together. Oh, my Lord. So sometimes the person you've spent the last 20, 30 years with, you're going, I can't do that. That's not going to work. And I think that's why we saw what we saw with relationships in the pandemic, where they didn't work. Because there was that new mindset that was brought in. It becomes a different life goal, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that generation. So
it's not easy for singles and for us. It's not easy, but it's really interesting. So over the years, new and new problems connected with political situation or with financial situation, new problems coming to us. And despite what's happening, matchmakers will always have something to work with.
Absolutely.
Our
Absolutely.
job is forever. I always say it's the best job I can imagine. It's gossiping 24 hours and it's so much fun. And I think it's the same situation with you, because otherwise you wouldn't work so many years in this crazy job. Sometimes it's kindergarten, sometimes it's like circus and being ringmaster, but it's still so much fun.
It is. And it's, I think when you meet people who are a little bit lost maybe at how, because there are so many options out there, we get this analysis paralysis. We're scared of making mistakes right now, and I think that's where people struggle. So they look for the perfect option, and all I can say is there isn't a perfect option. A relationship is not perfect. It's what you make it. It's how you work together, and it's what you make of it. There is nobody who is going to be perfect out there. And I think as soon as somebody realizes that, as soon as that light bulb moment goes, that's when they open themselves up, and that's when they start meeting people. And I think the beauty is, I always try to work with clients organically, and I say, as you start to meet our clients, I want you to observe what's going on in your own life, because I know you'll start drawing people to you as well.
Yeah.
If you're doing it right, that will work. So stop filtering, get out and do it, and see what comes from that, because that's the point. It's like if you were trying to get a job, you wouldn't go and just do one thing over and over and over. You have to get out there and start putting your CVs out. And if you don't do that, it's never going to work. So if you're not sitting in front of other people, you're never going to find out who you are to be in the right place to find the right person.
Yes, and every little change we are involving in our life, it changes our personality, and as soon our personalities has been changed, we attract other people in our life. So I really believe in this attraction, because you do something different. And many of my clients, we just tried it. As example, she started learning, I don't know, five English words every day. She has never done it, but she finally started learning English. And just because she's so proud of herself, finally doing something for her future, same photos, same text, but absolutely other men who are attracted.
What advice would you give to a British person who was looking to date somebody from a different culture, a different country?
First, it's so for me as foreigner, I think the British people are friendly, especially in writing, and sometimes over friendly. Because if so I work mostly with German clients or European clients. For me, it's enough to write, thank you so much for your message. We will make your request. As soon as I know, I will let you know. It's okay. It's absolutely nice and friendly. But if I communicate with somebody who is British, oh, thank you so much for your amazing message. I was so happy. I'm delighted. You know, for Europeans on the continent, it's really over the top. So it means if you get short message, it doesn't mean that it's unfriendly or impolite. It's just how people on the ground over the channel, how people talk to each other, and absolutely normal. So it's, I think, generally to date somebody from other cultures or other countries, it's really like you said, if I got something, it doesn't mean to be meant what I think about it. So just trying to put in somebody else's shoes and get it from his or her perspective. Because really, we are on the continent, we are shorter with words. We are not so excited about Americans, even worse, you know. it's really a cultural or language thing, or maybe just because foreigners learn English as a foreign language. We don't learn this language like delighted, brilliant, amazing. I learned so many, over the top words, and I use them, but every time I read, I'm not amazed. It's just nice to get your message. Thank you that you finally answered to me. But you have to write like this, otherwise you will be, out in this culture.
We overanalyze things, don't we? Sometimes.
Absolutely. All this too emotional.
And again, if there was a European lady who sent that message to a British guy, that's the kind of message you get when a woman isn't happy with you. It's normally very succinct and to the point. So a British guy is going to look at that and go, oh, what have I done? What did I say? Because that's a pretty direct message. So it is interesting how we analyze, we perceive, we interpret.
Absolutely. You really moving as a foreigner to like I moved to UK, living for many years in Germany, so it's a huge difference. And this special thing even about language, quite small country, 60 million people, but on every corner you speak different English. So there is no English like classical book English, and the language we foreigner learn is not the language you speak.
But that can be same anywhere. My son's learning Spanish, he's extremely good at it. But I know when he did his GCSEs and they were doing the oral, when he had to listen, he said it was really hard because there would be this dialect. So they would say things differently. So how I looked at that was, my goodness, if there was somebody, say in Germany, that was trying to learn English, and we gave them somebody from Scotland, and then somebody from the Northeast, and then from Glasgow, Liverpool, and then maybe some Mancunian in there, some good strong Mancunian, and then East End, West End. It would really mess with your head because it'd be like, what are they saying? So
yes, absolutely. So it means amazing country, but again, other foods, other way to hold the glass, because German, they hold this on the steel, and like Russians, just normal. And this pub culture, that pub is something like local club for communication. There are a lot of things. I remember I watched this film. What was the name? This pop cups, something like this. It was always go to the pub, and I thought, yeah, maybe they showed it just for the film. No, it's culture. People go to the same pub every evening, or some people go every evening just because it's for them local place to chat with to each other. So in Germany, it's not like this. In Russia, it's not like this. It's something like some things you have to accept if you want to survive here. Just other country, every country has own traditions, but for foreigners who would like to date British people, I really would
go to the pub.
We go to the pub. Yes, cranberry juice. Yeah, cranberry juice. Yes, go to the pub.
Because that's changing as well. Because of generations, it used to be that you would live in a community, you'd go to the pub, you'd meet friends, and you'd talk, and then you start dating, and then you get married, and that's how that would work. Well, now community, we move around. We move around so much that you haven't got a local. You might pop into the pub, but you don't know anybody because it's not your local pub. And again, less people go to pubs now. So the cultures, I think it's becoming slightly more European. So people are going out to more bars, restaurants, and they're not going to bars and restaurants to eat. They're going to socialize or have a coffee and meet up with friends. And that's the kind of culture that's coming through, which is really nice. It's a nice, it's very sociable because again, that can involve maybe family as well.
Yeah. Okay, Alex, thank you so much for this interesting conversation. It's really, I think, you know, so talking to different matchmakers, for me, it's we use different words, different vocabulary, but we still speak about the same. It's always about the same, and all this not concern, but this idea how we're going to sell our idea about dating to our clients. And everybody tries this, and we want to make our clients happier, even if they don't want to. I had a couple of days ago, I had a webinar for women, because I run for men and for women separately. And I really argued because of them being lazy. I said, you know, girls, I really don't understand, what do you want? Should I set the wedding for you and you just come for the wedding? Because you have to do something, photos, texts, you know, chatting, meeting, but you don't want to do anything. So I will do it like in very traditional religious countries, just set up a wedding and you just go and we are finished. So that's why some clients, they really don't want to be happy, and we have to convince them to be.
It is interesting, isn't it? It's I speak to many people who tell me they're single, they are looking, or they've got a friend who's looking. And actually, when you really drill down and you go, well, what are you doing about that? They're not doing anything. You know, guys are probably the worst. They are pretty lazy. I'm sorry, guys, but we're lazy at that. And it's, you know, even if I turn around and say, go and speak to this person and see how they can help you. And it's like, no, right, okay.
Sometimes on my events, what I do, I say, you know, if you like somebody and if you don't know how to start conversation with her, tell me. And I go from boy to boy. Do you like anybody? Yes, I do. Come with me. Come with me. You know, Marina, John, talk. Oh, you.
I've done that.
Sometimes it works like kindergarten in this sandbox, you know. Who is you? Yeah, okay, play together.
Yeah. And sometimes that takes I suppose, the vulnerability away, in the sense of you are the person who's brought them together. So that's why they have to stand there, rather than somebody. It's like a guy going to a woman and going, I'm not interested. Oh my gosh, what have I done? I made an idiot of myself. Whereas if there's somebody there going, right, you two, go and sit in front of each other. All right, well, we're here because Ksenia said we have to sit in front of each other. It's not my fault. It's not your fault.
Sometimes I even say, you know, so for me, it doesn't matter what are you talking about. So even if you sit and gossip how parties better organized and Ksenia shit and all these tasks and challenges are shit, it's okay. You have common enemy, me. And common enemy always brings people together. So it means enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to host some party in Manchester.
We're gonna have to party in Manchester, definitely.
Yes, I have some requests from Manchester, so maybe we have to speak about to organize some event together, because I have some leads from Manchester, and just because I don't do anything or not many people, maybe we have to do it together. Absolutely. I liked Manchester. I was here there this summer, first time. I liked it very much. Yeah.
Good. So some great places, great people.
Yeah. Thank you very much for interview, for your time, and have a nice day. Yeah. Bye.